Okay, we've been talking a lot, oh gosh, a lot about love, about God's love, about how it is love is the mark, it's the evidence, it's the prerequisite, it's the outcome. Love is central. If you take love out of the equation of the Christian life, you don't have the Christian life. It's just that simple. Last time we looked at what John writes in verse 16 of First John chapter 4. And so we know and rely on the love God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them. So what we kind of poked at a teeny bit, but didn't get much, I didn't feel like we made any progress really on, is the idea of, okay, what's that look like? How do I, if I live in love, I live in God and God lives in me, okay, what's that look like? Well, actually, John answers that question in verse 17. This is how love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. Okay, if there's any day I want to have confidence on, it would be on the day of judgment. Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to be able to be confident on Judgment Day. I'm not going to be able to puff out my chest and say, hit me with your best shot. No, nobody could, except for what Jesus has done for us, has done in us, and is still doing in us. See, my only confidence in the day of judgment is in what Jesus has done. And then my cooperation with him in what he wanted to do, desired to do, began to do in me. Okay, so what is it? Where do we, this is how I know that, love is made complete in me. And because of that, I can have confidence on the day of judgment. And then the colon comes. In this world, we are like Jesus. It gets easier and harder. Okay, so now there's something I can put my thumb on. Okay, if I want to live in love and have this sense, show the evidence that God is living in me and me and him, and then here's how that happens: by love being made complete. And okay, we got to go back to this idea of being made complete. It doesn't say it is complete. John writes, this is how love is made complete. This is a process. All the processes I've ever been a part of in my life have to do with forward movement and setbacks. Forward movement and setbacks. I don't know anybody who is so capable that they'll never have setbacks. I know a lot of people who, when they have a setback, they just throw their hands up and quit. Or, see this sometimes too, people have a setback, and what they try to do is figure out how do they put the responsibility for that setback on someone else, and then they can be a victim of someone else's bad choice, which for some people This happens in counseling sometimes. Some people, when that happens, it gives them permission for themselves to make not good choices, as though that made it okay. It doesn't make it okay. And when we fall backwards, when we have forward steps and then we have setbacks, and when we have setbacks, we get a chance. We get a choice. What are you going to do about the setback? And the best thing I know to do about a setback is learn from it what I can and then move away from it. Getting stuck and locked in a setback is tragic and unnecessary. Okay. Boy, I guess that was in there trying to get out. So this is how love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. When love is made complete in me, that is at least part of what will give me confidence on the day of judgment. And when you connect it with what he fleshes this out with, to me, it makes a little bit more sense. In this world, we are like Jesus. Now, what are some ways we are like Jesus? Because there are a whole lot of ways I am not like Jesus, as much as I would like to. I can't waltz into the hospital and just start pulling people out of beds and sending them home healed and whole. I can't just go to the funeral chapel and interrupt funerals and raise people from the dead. I can't go down to the food bank and when they're running low on stuff, I can't just go here, and all of a sudden they have enough that they've got 12 baskets full left over. I can't do any of those things, right? Some people, I don't know what they mean by it, but some people imply, and sometimes they just say it, dude, if Jesus did it, you can do it. And I'm thinking, I'm not so sure about that. But there are some things that I am capable of doing. And at the top of that list is loving God and loving people. If I want to be like Jesus in this world, I think my first priority, my most compelling desire would be to learn how to love. And then John talked about love being made complete. And I'm going to connect that idea with this idea of John says, in this world, we are like Jesus, in that we are becoming more and more like him as our love is becoming more and more complete. That is not hard to figure out in terms of what do I tell you. What is hard is to figure out, okay, what does that look like? We're going to kind of start out on the edges and come back in toward the center. Out on the edges is the idea of, if I'm going to love as Jesus loved, one thing I don't do is I don't disregard truth. Jesus never disregarded truth as he loved sinners, profound sinners, prostitutes, thieves. He didn't reduce the truth so that what they had done was no longer wrong. He didn't step away from the truth. The fact is, the truth and his commitment to the truth is one of the main things that got him killed. So Jesus didn't back away from the truth. He didn't bend the truth so that it would accommodate people's failings and foibles and misses. We don't have to. We don't have to back away from the truth. Jesus retained his commitment to the truth. And I think the reason for that is because his love for God, his Father, never wavered. And you can disagree with me, but my sense is you really can't love the Father in that way, to that degree, and not have the highest commitment to truth. Okay. So Jesus was capable, he was able to love people unconditionally. In spite of their weaknesses, in spite of their failings, in spite of their sin, Jesus loved them. We struggle with that. Okay? There are big ways that Jesus loved people unconditionally, and the biggest way of all was that he died for us. None of us deserved that. None of us. And yet, you know, that old thing is true. If I had been the only one on earth who needed a Savior, I believe Jesus would have died for me. That's the kind of love that he had. And when I think about emulating that kind of love, that is a tall challenge. When you come a little further down onto the runway, it gets even more challenging. Years ago, I read a really cool book, interesting book, especially for relationships and business. I mean, its primary application was in a business setting, but boy, the principles, they go off in every direction. The title of the book is 5 Voices. It's worth reading if you are in between books. But one of the things that they did in that book was a question. And the question is, what's it like to be on the other end of you? Ooh, that's a fantastic question, as long as I don't have to answer it. It's one of those questions that's great to ask, but it's pretty telling to be asked. My question, though, is what is it like to be on the other end of you? Is what's on the other end of me, is that an expression of the love and grace of Christ? Well, there are other questions that relate to that. One of the questions is, do I have to be the smartest person in the room? And do I have to prove I'm the smartest person in the room? Do I always have to be right? Do I find it difficult to permit others to have an opinion other than what fits with mine? I mean, just starting there, in all adult relationships that I'm aware of and familiar with, those are telling questions. See, love is made complete on the side of motive as my motive becomes more and more and more to be like Jesus, to be transformed and shaped to become more like him. That's the motive level. In terms of the pragmatics and the way it works itself out, it has pretty much everything to do with how do I demonstrate God's love to the people around me. And I have to figure out, how do I live my life in a way that makes choices on the basis of what is in the best interest of the person on the other side of me. This revolutionizes marriages. It revolutionizes friendships, offices, businesses. It could revolutionize a life. And, oh, by the way, as we cooperate with God and partner with him and see his love being made complete in us, it gives us confidence on the day of judgment. Well, don't leave it in the clouds. Come down on the runway. Just pick one thing. What one thing could you do about bringing love to completeness, or making your love more complete? And I'll connect again next time on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.